Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into something really fundamental, but maybe surprisingly tricky. What actually makes a marriage work? Like really thrive?
Yeah, we hear so much about, communication or conflict resolution.
Right? Fighting fair and all that.
Exactly. But what if the real secret isn't about managing fights, but about keeping the love alive, staying in love?
That's the angle we're exploring today. We're looking at the work of Dr. Willard Harley Jr.
That's right. We've pulled out some core ideas from his writings, especially around fall in love, stay in love.
Okay, this feels important because Dr. Harley really challenges some conventional wisdom, doesn't he?
He really does. He basically says a lot of marriage counseling kind of misses the mark.
How so?
Well, they focus on teaching couples to communicate better, resolve conflict. But his point is, if the feeling of love is gone, just talking better isn't going to magically bring it back.
That makes sense. It's like trying to fix a car engine with a new coat of paint.
Sort of, yeah. He actually talks about his own experience early on as a therapist. He used those standard methods, communication, conflict resolution, and he saw couples still drifting apart. He had this light bulb moment. Couples don't get married because they're great communicators?
No, they get married because they're crazy about each other.
Exactly. They're in love. And marriages fail, he argues, because they fall out of love. The feeling fades.
I remember that feeling. When you're first falling for someone, you're definitely not sitting there scoring their active listening skills.
Not at all. You're just captivated.
Yeah.
He shares this really powerful story about a pastor's wife.
Oh, yeah.
She was having an affair. And he tried everything, reminding her of her vows, the impact on the kids, her husband's work, all the logical stuff.
The rational arguments.
Right. And she just looked at him and said, "But I'm in love with this other man."
Wow.
And that was huge for Harley. He realized that feeling, being in love, it's just immensely powerful, more powerful than logic. So his whole approach shifted
Away from just fixing problems.
towards actually restoring and sustaining that feeling,
Yeah.
getting to the emotional root causes.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, tailored for you, the listener. We want to quickly get you to the heart of Dr. Harley's key concepts. Things like the love bank,
Emotional needs, love busters.
right? The giver and taker dynamic, and this really interesting, maybe even radical idea, the policy of joint agreement.
Let's start at the foundation, the love bank.
The love bank. Okay, what is that exactly? In an emotional bank account.
Pretty much, yeah. He describes it as this internal emotional accounting system we all have. For everyone we know,
How does it work? Deposits and withdrawals.
exactly like that. Every time someone does something you genuinely like, something that makes you happy or meets one of your needs, that's a deposit. They put love units into their account in your love bank.
Okay.
But conversely, when they do something that hurts you, makes you unhappy, ignores a need, that's a withdrawal.
And the balance in their account.
Yeah.
That determines how you feel about them.
Precisely. High positive balance. You feel warmth, liking, maybe even love.
And if the balance drops,
Your feeling's cool. If it goes negative, into the red, you start to dislike them, maybe even resent them.
so the people we find truly irresistible.
They're the ones with the highest balance in our love bank. It's that simple, according to Harley.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And he talks about two kinds of love, right? Caring versus romantic.
Yes, that's a crucial distinction. Caring love is the decision. It's the effort, the willingness to try and make your spouse happy. It's essential.
But it's not enough on its own.
Not to create that feeling of being in love.
Yeah.
You can care deeply, you can sacrifice, but if you don't actually know what makes your spouse feel good, or if your actions, even well-intentioned ones, actually cause pain.
You mean they make withdrawals?
Exactly. If you're making withdrawals, even accidentally, your caring doesn't necessarily translate into them feeling romantic love for you.
Ah, okay. Like the example you mentioned earlier, trying to show you care by making a big effort, maybe a fancy dinner.
Right, the hot dog casserole analogy he uses.
Yeah, you make this huge casserole because you think it's a nice gesture.
But your spouse absolutely hates hot dogs.
So your deposit attempt actually turns into a withdrawal. They associate your effort with, well, gagging.
Precisely. Romantic love, on the other hand, is that feeling. Finding someone irresistible. And that feeling gets triggered by consistent, large deposits into your love bank.
So couples start out with high balances. They're in love.
Usually, yes.
And the marriage gets into trouble when the balance drops, withdrawals outweigh deposits, and they fall out of love.
That's the core idea.
Yeah.
So Harley's mission became How do we systematically make deposits and stop withdrawals to restore and maintain that high balance? How do we tackle the emotional reality, not just the surface argument?
Okay, so how do you make those big, impactful deposits, the ones that build romantic love?
By identifying and consistently meeting what he calls your spouse's most important emotional needs.
Emotional needs. Define that a bit more.
They're the things that, when you have them, you enjoy them the most. And when you don't have them, you miss them the most intensely. Meeting any need feels good, but meeting the most important ones.
That's where the magic happens.
That's where you get feelings of euphoria, that deep connection. That's what can trigger romantic love.
So it's not just about being generally nice. You have to be specific, like a specialist in your own spouse.
Exactly. What's a top need for you might be way down the list for your partner. The book really emphasizes figuring out each person's unique top needs. He even has a questionnaire for it, the Emotional Needs Questionnaire.
And I found some common patterns, right? 10 common needs that often come up.
Yes, he lists 10 that frequently emerge as most important for people. And he did notice some gender patterns, though it's always about the individual.
What were those patterns? Needs often chosen by men.
He often found men prioritizing things like sexual fulfillment, recreational companionship, which is really two things, doing fun stuff and doing it together.
Companionship during the activity.
Right. Also, physical attractiveness, how their spouse looks, things like weight, clothes, hygiene. Then domestic support help around the house, which he calls a potential time bomb need.
Time bomb.
Yeah, like maybe it's not a big deal early on or easy to provide, but if it gets neglected later, it can become explosive. And finally, admiration. Feeling respected and admired by their spouse. He kind of groups these under leisure pleasures often.
Okay. And needs often chosen by women.
Often topping the list for women were affection, non-sexual touch, hugs, holding hands, conversation, sharing thoughts, feelings, plans. He notes this often drops off sharply after courtship.
Yeah, I can see that.
Honesty and openness, feeling like they know what's really going on with their partner. Financial support, feeling secure financially, though norms are changing with dual careers. And family commitment, things like active involvement with kids, agreeing on parenting.
But again, the key is figuring out the specific top needs for your partner.
Absolutely critical. You need to become the world's leading expert in meeting their most important needs. That's how you make the big deposits.
It's back to the hamburger versus hot dog thing. Giving them what they value, not just what you think they should value.
Couldn't have said it better. Giving someone tons of admiration when what they desperately need is conversation won't fill their love bank where it counts most.
Okay, so step 1, identify the top needs. Step 2, meet them. How do you make sure you're doing that consistently? Life gets busy.
That brings us to another one of his big strategies, the policy of undivided attention.
Undivided attention. Sounds intense.
It is, and it's meant to be. It's not just being in the same house. It's structured, focused time together.
What's the rule?
Give your spouse a minimum of 15 hours of undivided attention every week.
15. Wow. That sounds like a lot. For many couples, that would be a huge change.
It is a lot. He knows that. But he argues it's non-negotiable for a healthy marriage. And this time has a specific purpose.
Which is?
It's primarily for meeting 4 specific emotional needs that usually require dedicated time together: affection, sexual fulfillment, conversation, and recreational companionship.
The core relationship needs, basically.
The ones that build the closest bonds, yeah. And he has clear guidelines for this time.
Okay, like what?
3 main things. First, privacy. This time is just for the 2 of you. No kids awake, no relatives visiting, no friends hanging out. Couple time only.
Got it. Exclusive.
Second, objectives. The goal during this time is to focus on mutually enjoying those 4 needs: affection, sex, conversation, recreation.
Mutually enjoying, so both people need to get something out of it.
Critically important. He notes, for instance, a wife might avoid affection if she feels it always leads to sex she doesn't feel ready for, or a husband might want sex without putting in the effort for affection or conversation first. The goal is to make all 4 genuinely enjoyable for both partners during this time.
That requires some negotiation and attunement in itself.
Definitely. And the third guideline is the amount of time. 15 hours a week is the minimum. Yeah, For couples whose love banks are really low, or who are trying to recover from major issues like an affair, he might recommend much more, especially at the beginning. Maybe 25, 30 hours a week, or even taking a vacation focused solely on rebuilding that connection.
He really emphasizes the why behind this time commitment, doesn't he?
He does. He sees time together as the absolute bedrock of marital security. It boils down to priorities.
He uses that example of the guy who said he had no time for his wife.
But somehow managed to find plenty of time to have an affair.
Right. It wasn't a lack of time. It was where he chose to spend it.
Exactly. So if you're not spending 15 focused hours a week together, something else is getting that time. A hobby, extra work hours, maybe time with friends or extended family. Harley argues that whatever that is, it needs to become a lower priority than your marriage. Your spouse needs to be number one.
So how do you practically make that happen? Just hope for the best.
No, he's very practical. Schedule it. Treat it like the most important appointment of your week. He actually suggests sitting down together every Sunday afternoon, say 3:30, look at the week ahead, and block out those 15 hours. Put it on the calendar.
Make it concrete. He even has worksheets for this, I think.
Yeah, worksheets, graphs to track it. The point is to make it intentional until it becomes a habit.
So you build the habit of meeting needs, making deposits. Through this scheduled, prioritized time, it becomes more effortless over time.
That's the goal. Consistent, scheduled time builds those positive pathways.
Okay, makes sense. Building the positive. But what about the negative side? The things that drain the account?
Ah, yes. The love busters. These are the behaviors that cause pain, create unhappiness, and make huge withdrawals from the love bank.
Love busters. Even the name sounds destructive.
They are. He uses this analogy of a fishing net. If your net gets clogged up with junk, seaweed, debris, you can't catch any fish. Love busters are like that debris. They clog up the marriage, making it impossible to meet needs effectively or enjoy each other. They destroy love.
And he identifies 6 common ones.
Yes, the 6 most common culprits he sees. He often groups the first 3 together as instinctive, kind of thoughtless ways people try to get what they want or control their spouse.
What's the first one?
Selfish demands. This is when you command your spouse to do something for your benefit, usually with an implied threat if they refuse.
Like, get me a drink now. Versus, could you possibly grab me a drink when you're up?
Exactly. He's very clear. A thoughtful request allows the other person to say no without punishment. A selfish demand doesn't. He calls it abusive, controlling, manipulative, the first stage of verbal abuse.
Okay, that's serious. What's number 2?
Disrespectful judgments. This is trying to straighten out your spouse by lecturing, ridiculing, or basically telling them their thinking or feelings are wrong or stupid.
Ouch.
Oh.
Implying they have bad judgment.
Right. It's not respectful persuasion where you try to understand each other and maybe blend viewpoints. It's just making them wrong.
What?
He says it causes profound unhappiness and shouldn't be tolerated. He even suggests asking your spouse point blank, do you feel respected when I talk to you like that?
That takes courage. Okay, number 3.
Angry outbursts. Losing your temper and deliberately trying to hurt your spouse, verbally or even physically.
Just lashing out.
Yeah. He acknowledges it can feel instinctive, but it's incredibly destructive. Punishment, he says, never solves marital problems. It just makes the other person want to strike back or shut down.
His line is, when anger wins, love loses.
That's it. And he's adamant. Angry outbursts are never justified, no matter what your spouse did. If someone feels their anger is justified, he strongly recommends professional help.
Wow. Okay, those first 3 are pretty intense. What are the next 3 love busters?
The next 3 can sometimes seem less dramatic, but they're just as damaging over time. First is annoying habits.
Annoying habits, like leaving socks on the floor.
Could be anything. Humming, throat clearing, chronic lateness, messiness. Things that might seem small individually, but they add up. Like water torture, he says. They just nickel and dime the love bank.
And they often lead to criticism, which is probably another love buster in itself.
Absolutely. Constant criticism is highly destructive. Then there's independent behavior.
Independent behavior. What does that mean in this context?
It means making decisions and acting on them without genuinely considering your spouse's feelings or seeking their agreement, especially when it affects them or your shared life.
Why?
Like signing up for a weekly poker night or starting an intense solo exercise program that takes up all your evenings, or making major plans with friends or family without talking it through first. It creates separate, incompatible lives.
Basically acting like you're single when you're not. Prioritizing your own agenda.
That's a good way to put it. And the final one is dishonesty.
Dishonesty. Lying, obviously, but does it include other things?
Yes, he defines it broadly. It includes withholding important information about your feelings, your past, what you're doing now, your future plans. Anything significant that your spouse should reasonably know.
Why is that so bad, apart from the betrayal?
Well, first, your spouse can't meet your needs if they don't know what's really going on with you. Second, when the truth eventually comes out, which it usually does, it causes massive conflict and destroys trust. And third, you can't actually resolve problems together if one person is hiding crucial information. He advocates for what he calls radical honesty.
So stopping these 6 love busters demands disrespect, anger, annoying habits, independent behavior. Dishonesty is just as important as meeting needs.
Absolutely. He says you have to stop the withdrawals, or at least work on stopping them at the same time as you start making deposits. They're dangerous. They poison the relationship.
And stopping them isn't easy. It requires acknowledging the behavior is hurtful, even if you don't intend it to be.
Right. You have to believe your spouse when they tell you something you do is a love buster for them. He has a Love Busters questionnaire, too, to help identify these. And he notes sometimes people need outside help, therapy, or support groups to break these habits.
Okay, so behind a lot of this, especially the love busters like demands and anger, he talks about an internal conflict.
Ah, yes, the giver and the taker. He suggests we all have these two sort of competing instincts or personalities inside us that really influence how we act in marriage.
The giver and the taker. Tell me about the giver first.
The giver's primary goal is to make other people happy and avoid making them unhappy, often even if it means making yourself unhappy.
So self-sacrificing.
Can be, yeah. The giver's rule is basically make them happy, avoid their unhappiness, even at my own expense. It can be thoughtless about your own needs.
Okay. And the taker.
The taker is the flip side. Its goal is to make you happy and avoid your unhappiness, even if it makes others unhappy.
Self-focused.
Exactly. The taker's rule is make me happy, avoid my unhappiness, even at their expense. It's thoughtless about others' needs.
And in marriage, these two, they don't just balance out nicely.
Not usually, no. He observes that in marriage, the giver and taker tend to sort of take turns being in control within each person, and it affects the dynamic.
So if your giver is in charge all the time,
you might end up sacrificing too much, feeling resentful, maybe being taken advantage of.
and if the taker is running the show,
That's when you see the love busters really kick in, the rudeness, the demands, the disrespect, the anger. The taker uses those tactics to try and force the spouse to meet its needs.
and the core problem is neither one is thinking clearly.
Right. Both the giver's impulse, sacrifice myself, and the taker's impulse, hurt them to get my way, are fundamentally thoughtless. Someone always gets hurt. It takes conscious, intelligent thought to override these instincts.
And the taker is usually the one doing the most immediate damage to the relationship.
Typically, yes. It's the taker's actions that fuel the conflict and drive the love bank balance down fastest.
This whole dynamic seems related to the different states he says couples fall into. The marital roller coaster.
Exactly. He describes 3 main states that couples tend to cycle through, often driven by whether the giver or the taker is dominant. The first state is intimacy.
Intimacy. That sounds good. Like the goal state.
It is. This is when the giver is generally in charge. Giving care, affection, meeting needs feels relatively effortless, almost unconditional, especially at the beginning of a relationship. It's characterized by positive feelings, connection, lots of love bank deposits.
Like the honeymoon phase or just when things are going really well.
Precisely. But then something happens. An unmet need. A love buster. Something causes pain.
And that triggers?
That wakes up the taker, and the couple can slide into the second state. Conflict.
See, number 2. Conflict. Dominated by the taker.
Yes. In conflict, the taker takes over. Taking feels unconditional. You feel justified in making demands, being disrespectful, getting angry, fighting. You're still emotionally connected, though, which is why the conflict feels so intense and painful.
You care enough to fight, basically.
In a way, yes. But if the conflict goes on too long, becomes too painful, or just seems utterly pointless,
They move to the third state.
right, withdrawal. This state is also driven by the taker, but it's the taker deciding to give up. I'm not getting what I want and fighting isn't working, so I'm out.
Emotionally checking out.
Exactly. He calls it being emotionally divorced. You're not giving, you're not taking. You avoid each other, stop talking about anything important. There's a sense of hopelessness.
And the big challenge is that when you're in conflict or withdrawal, your emotions just take over. It's hard to think rationally.
Extremely hard. Fighting back or shutting down feels like the only option, the instinctive thing to do, but those are taker instincts, and they just dig the hole deeper.
So getting back to intimacy from conflict or withdrawal requires
What?
conscious effort.
Conscious, intelligent effort. You have to deliberately override the taker's urge to fight or flee. You have to consciously choose to re-engage the giver, to start caring again, to try making deposits even when it feels hard.
And staying in intimacy also requires more than just good intentions.
Yes. Staying there requires navigating disagreements and daily life intelligently in a way that keeps the taker from hijacking the situation. Which leads us directly to his proposed solution for that.
The master key?
He presents it that way. The policy of joint agreement. This might be the single most challenging, but also potentially the most transformative piece of his whole system.
Okay, I'm braced. What is the policy of joint agreement?
The rule itself is simple to state. Never do anything without an enthusiastic agreement between you and your spouse.
Whoa, okay. Never do anything without enthusiastic agreement. My first reaction is, that sounds impossible. How can you run a life like that? What about small stuff? What if you just can't agree enthusiastically?
Yeah, it sounds radical, right?
Right.
But he argues it's not just possible, it's essential. His point is that almost everything you do does affect your sky somehow, even small things. And the policy isn't about becoming paralyzed, it's about preventing harm.
Okay, explain the logic. Why is this the key?
Several reasons. First, it absolutely forces you to negotiate. No more unilateral decisions on anything significant. You have to talk.
Stops the independent behavior love buster right there.
Exactly. Second, it prevents thoughtlessness. Even if you're tired, stressed, or just focused on yourself when the taker might normally just barge ahead, this policy makes you stop, consider your spouse's feelings, and get their genuine buy-in.
Okay.
Third, and this is really clever, it balances the giver and the taker instincts within you. Your giver part likes that your spouse needs your enthusiastic agreement. It feels good to be valued. Your taker part likes that you need their enthusiastic agreement. It protects you from being railroaded or having to sacrifice unfairly.
So neither person feels forced or resentful. Nobody gets hurt. Not you, not them.
That's the ideal. It guides you away from the giver's trap of self-sacrifice and the taker's trap of getting your way at their expense. And fourth, over time, it actually builds compatibility because you constantly have to find solutions that genuinely work for both of you.
And that word enthusiastic is crucial, not just reluctant agreement.
Absolutely vital. He says reluctant agreement, oh, all right, fine, whatever, doesn't work. It doesn't create buy-in, it doesn't lead to commitment, and it often breeds resentment down the line. You need genuine mutual enthusiasm for the plan.
He uses some powerful examples to show how this policy prevents disaster, right? Like the in-laws moving in situation.
Yes, exactly. Judy wanted to help her sister. That was her giver instinct. But having them move in without Bill's enthusiastic agreement caused him enormous pain, huge love bank withdrawals. The policy would have forced them to find a solution they both felt truly good about, like maybe lending money for rent instead of Bill sacrificing his home life.
Makes sense. Or the example with child discipline.
Right. Alex's anger, his taker, led him to punish their son in ways Christine didn't agree with. That hurt her deeply, another big withdrawal. The policy demands enthusiastic agreement on all discipline strategies. It would force Alex to manage his anger and work with Christine to find methods they both fully support.
Prevents one parent undermining the other too? What about money? That's a huge source of conflict.
Huge. Surely spending money without Joe's enthusiastic agreement caused problems. But then Joe trying to take complete control of the finances, also without Shirley's enthusiastic agreement, just created a different kind of unhappiness. The policy requires them to find a mutually enthusiastic plan for budgeting, spending, saving, everything.
And it even applies to really big life choices like career paths.
Definitely. The example of Jim, the husband who prioritized his demanding career over time with his wife, Renee, that was independent behavior, done without her enthusiastic agreement. It led to her needs being unmet, her love bank draining. Applying the policy meant Jim had to be willing to potentially adjust his career ambitions to find a lifestyle, work hours, travel, etc., that they could both be genuinely enthusiastic about. One that prioritized their relationship.
So it really covers everything. Big decisions, small decisions, how you spend your time, your money, how you raise kids.
Pretty much anything that significantly affects both of you or your shared life. He argues it's the ultimate safeguard for the marriage, ensuring you don't accidentally or intentionally prioritize other people or things work, friends, hobbies, even family above the needs and happiness of your spouse. unless you both enthusiastically agree to it.
It sounds incredibly demanding. I mean, the discipline required to live that way, constantly seeking mutual enthusiasm. How do you actually do that in practice when you disagree?
It's definitely a skill to learn. He lays out some practical guidelines for negotiation using this policy. First step, set ground rules. Make sure the discussion itself is pleasant and safe, not a battle.
Create a positive environment for problem solving.
Exactly. Second, clearly identify the specific problem you're trying to solve together. Third, brainstorm potential solutions. And here's the key filter.
Based on the policy.
Right. You only throw out ideas that you genuinely believe both of you could potentially get enthusiastic about. You consciously filter out the win-lose suggestions that your giver, sacrifice myself, or your taker, I win, you lose, might whisper in your ear. Focus only on potential win-wins.
That requires a lot of creativity and self-awareness. Rejecting those instinctive giver-taker ideas.
It really does. It requires engaging your intelligence. Fourth step, choose a solution, but only if you both feel that genuine enthusiasm. If not, keep brainstorming or agree to revisit it.
No settling for good enough if one person isn't truly on board.
Correct. And finally, once you have that enthusiastic agreement, schedule the implementation. Make a concrete plan for how and when you'll put the solution into action.
Okay, so let me try to pull this all together. Dr. Harley's recipe for a thriving, love-filled marriage is basically constantly make deposits in the love bank by becoming an expert at meeting your spouse's top emotional needs,
using dedicated, scheduled, undivided attention time as a key tool,
while simultaneously being vigilant about stopping the love busters, those 6 behaviors that drain the bank.
And underpinning absolutely everything with the policy of joint agreement, guiding every decision by seeking mutual enthusiastic agreement.
That's the framework. It's about actively cultivating love, preventing damage, and navigating life together intelligently and thoughtfully, prioritizing the relationship's health.
Exactly. The goal isn't just to avoid divorce, it's to maintain that state of finding each other irresistible, staying romantically in love. By consistently applying these principles, it requires intention, priority, and using your head over your gut reactions sometimes.
It definitely shifts the focus. It's not passive, it's very active, very intentional, both simple in concept and potentially really challenging in daily practice.
It demands a real commitment to putting your spouse's well-being and the relationship's well-being right at the center, maybe even above your own immediate impulses or desires sometimes.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over after this deep dive. How genuinely challenging do you think it would be to live by that policy of joint agreement? Never doing anything without your spouse's enthusiastic agreement.
Yeah, what parts of your life, your daily routines, your decision-making habits might have to change pretty fundamentally if you really committed to that principle.
It definitely highlights how often we might make choices, big or small, without really checking for that enthusiastic buy-in, potentially making those tiny withdrawals without even realizing it.
Food for thought.
Absolutely. That wraps up our deep dive today into Dr. Willard Harley's compelling ideas on how to fall in love, and more importantly, how to stay there.